This is my last attempt at a video because it's getting late and I'm resting my head on my hand. I'm supposed to be in bed like really early, but it's like 1. I'm going to say a little bit about sound arguments because I think that the scale needs to be tipped a little bit in favor of sound arguments. Seems like people really spend a lot of time trying to find fallacious reasoning and fallacious fake arguments amongst their colleagues and amongst people with opposing arguments rather than looking at what's true, what's false, and coming to logical, objective conclusions about things. A sound argument has 2 true premises, 1 true conclusion. A valid argument has a true conclusion, but 1 or both of the premises can still be false. So you can still say smoking is bad for you, but you could say, but the 2 premises backing it up are that it causes, pink unicorn hallucinations and elephantitis, and both of those premises are false, but the conclusion is still true that smoking is bad for you. A valid argument is that. A sound argument would be, you would take things that have been studied. You'd say, that nearly all the people that have smoked that have, they've developed some type of cancer, or there's this many carcinogens in it, there's this stuff, just back to inhaling smoke, things like that. Those would be 2 true premises, and then the true conclusion, smoking is bad for you. So a sound argument has to be that. It can't really be inductive reasoning. It's really hard to come up with a sound argument that's inductive. And you can't use any fallacies, okay? So if you have even 1 fallacy and your argument is inductive, you've pretty much already lost your argument. What is inductive reasoning would be a good question to answer. Inductive reasoning is the act of coming to a conclusion before any observations are made and then looking outwards for observations of the conclusion reached. So you assume that it's raining because the street is wet. You see that the street is wet. 2 people are walking down the sidewalk. They look down at the street. The street is wet, so it must be raining. That's an invalid argument. Well, technically it's valid, but it's unsound at least. And that's because, yes, the street is wet, yes, it's raining, but it's not true how he said it. You can't say that every time the street is wet it rains. But that's what it implies. The street is wet, so it must be raining is implying that the street is always wet when it rains, which is not necessarily true. In order for that argument to be sound, you'd have to flip it over. One of the premise would be the symptom, which is the street is wet, and then the conclusion, which is it's raining. So you have to take the street is wet, therefore it must be raining. That didn't come out right, I'm sorry. Like I said, I'm tired. I'm just going to post this video, say fuck it, but then I'm going to probably replace it with a better one. Okay. So, a sound argument would be you would first look up. You wouldn't look at the ground to see if it's raining. You'd look up, you'd see the rain. You say, okay, it's cloudy and I see rainfall. You look at the street. The street is wet. So if it's cloud, and then you look at the other premise, which is the street is outside. So a sound argument would be to say, if the street is if the street is exposed to being outside and it's raining, the street will become wet. That's a sound argument. So you can have a true conclusion with false premise. You can have true premise with false conclusions, which are invalid arguments. Cogent and uncogent or incogent is what you arrive at when you're talking about inductive reasoning. So you would say, we take that the street is wet, so it must be raining, but you could also say it's a nice day out, which is the conclusion. Then you say it's a nice day out because there's birds singing, there's flowers blooming, there's children playing, and there's no clouds. So it becomes uncogent when any of those factors changes. So what if I have allergies, I don't like kids, and I don't like to hear birds sing? All of a sudden it's not such a nice day, is it? Then it becomes uncogent. So there you go. That's just a basic rundown of things. I'll get into logical fallacies some other time, but there's a lot of people that do this, and then they look up and they talk. So you got plenty of guys that like to read and then try to talk to you, but I try to keep my stuff unscripted because I like the idea of being able to learn from whatever, I don't know. I'm tired, like I said. And I'm just trying to use an ad hominem against people that, they're so arrogant, I'm tired of it. But before I start rambling, I'm just going to shut the video off. So, have a fine day or night or whatever. If you're doing drugs, have a fine, do drugs, whatever.